Have you ever felt like a lone wolf yet at the same time felt like an imposter? Imagine being the silent observer, the one who prefers solitude over social gatherings, the individual who thrives in their own company, the lone wolf. Now picture this lone wolf, not in its natural habitat but in a foreign territory. This wolf feels out of place, as though it's wearing a disguise, pretending to be something it's not. This is the conundrum that we often refer to as the lone wolf imposter syndrome. This phenomenon is particularly prevalent in those with Sigma personalities. Sigma personalities, often seen as the introverted mavericks of society, are self-sufficient, independent, and often prefer their own company. They're the lone wolves who tread their own paths, far removed from the conventional social hierarchies. Yet even these lone wolves can experience the feeling of being an imposter. This feeling is not exclusive to any particular personality type, but it can be especially perplexing for Sigmas. They may ask themselves, why do I feel like an imposter when I'm usually so comfortable being alone? The answer lies in the paradoxical nature of imposter syndrome. It's the feeling of being out of place, of pretending to be something you're not, despite your achievements and capabilities. It's the feeling of being a fraud, even when you're not. And this feeling can be especially disorienting for Sigma personalities who are typically comfortable in their own skin. But why does this happen? Why do these lone wolves, these independent Sigma personalities, feel like they're wearing a mask? How does this imposter syndrome manifest in their lives? And more importantly, how can they overcome this feeling and reclaim their authentic selves? These are the questions that we'll delve into in this video. We'll unravel the mystery of the lone wolf imposter syndrome, explore its roots, and offer practical solutions to overcome it. This video will shed light on this unique psychological phenomenon, so stay tuned. First, we need to understand what a Sigma personality is. A Sigma personality is an intriguing character type in the world of psychology. These individuals are often introverted, self-reliant, and nonconformist. You could say they march to the beat of their own drum. They're not necessarily antisocial, but rather selectively social, preferring solitude or the company of a select few over large groups. Now, imagine the Sigma as a lone wolf, not because they're outcasts, but because they choose to be. A lone wolf is an animal that lives and hunts independently rather than in a pack. They are self-sufficient, capable, and often quite content to be on their own. It's a fitting metaphor for Sigma personalities, don't you think? But it's not all solitary sunsets and peaceful introspection. Being a Sigma, being that lone wolf, can sometimes feel like a double-edged sword. On one hand, it allows them to be self-reliant and independent. On the other, it can lead to feelings of isolation, being misunderstood, or even being perceived as aloof or indifferent. It's important to note that Sigma personalities aren't necessarily introverted by nature. Rather, they have a unique ability to switch between introversion and extroversion as needed. This adaptability is a key characteristic of a Sigma personality, but it can often lead to a sense of confusion or uncertainty about their true identity. This is where we start to see the seeds of the imposter syndrome being sown. Imposter syndrome, in case you're not familiar, is a psychological pattern where individuals doubt their accomplishments and have a persistent, often internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. For a Sigma personality, this can manifest as a constant questioning of their own worth, abilities, and even their personality traits. They may feel like they're pretending to be something they're not, or that they're somehow deceiving others with their self-reliance and independence. But where does the imposter syndrome come into play? Let's unravel that next. Imposter syndrome is a psychological pattern where individuals doubt their accomplishments. It's like a constant nagging voice in the back of your mind, whispering that you're a fraud, that you're not as competent as others perceive you to be. It's the fear of being exposed, of having people discover that you're not as talented, intelligent, or deserving as they thought. Imposter syndrome can be a significant weight on one's self-esteem, often leading to chronic self-doubt and feelings of inadequacy. It's a relentless cycle where success is not seen as a result of one's abilities or hard work, but rather as a product of luck, timing, or deception. This can lead to overworking, perfectionism, and avoidance of challenges, all in an attempt to maintain the facade of competence. Imposter syndrome can be triggered by various factors. It could be a new role at work, a challenging project, or even a compliment that feels undeserved. It can also be a result of societal pressures and expectations or personal experiences and upbringing. Now you might be wondering, how does this relate to Sigma personalities? Aren't Sigma individuals known for their independence and self-reliance? The answer is yes, but remember, Sigma personalities are not immune to imposter syndrome. In fact, their tendency to be self-reliant and their preference for solitary pursuits could potentially amplify feelings of self-doubt and fraudulence. In a Sigma's world, there are no external voices to counteract the internal rhetoric of self-doubt. They might find themselves trapped in isolation with their thoughts, making it more difficult to break free from the shackles of imposter syndrome. Also, Sigma personalities often strive to master their chosen fields, devoting significant time and energy to learning and growth. This pursuit of excellence, while admirable, can also fuel imposter syndrome, as they often set high standards that can be challenging to meet. Now that we understand the basics, let's delve deeper into how this syndrome affects Sigma personalities. The journey to overcoming imposter syndrome is not an easy one, but awareness is the first step towards healing. Let's explore this further in our next segment. A Sigma personality with imposter syndrome is a unique psychological conundrum. Imagine a lone wolf wandering through the wilderness of self-doubt and insecurity, shackled by the belief that they are not as competent as others perceive them to be. This is the reality for many Sigma personalities who grapple with imposter syndrome. Sigma personalities are often seen as introverted, self-reliant, and nonconformist. They are the lone wolves of the personality spectrum, preferring solitude and independence over the hustle and bustle of social interactions. This inherent tendency towards self-reliance can be a double-edged sword, especially when dealing with imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome can be exacerbated by the self-sufficient nature of Sigma personalities. Because they are so independent, they often find it difficult to seek help or open up about their feelings of inadequacy. This can lead to a vicious cycle of self-doubt and self-isolation, where the Sigma individual struggles alone with their perceived incompetence. Moreover, since Sigma personalities are nonconformist, they may feel like outsiders, which can further fuel their imposter syndrome. They might feel as though they don't fit in, or that they are pretending to be something they're not, exacerbating feelings of being a fraud. The solitary nature of Sigma personalities can also make dealing with imposter syndrome more challenging. Since they tend to keep their feelings to themselves, they might bottle up their insecurities and self-doubts, which can intensify the effects of imposter syndrome. Instead of sharing their fears and seeking reassurance, they might withdraw further into their shell, allowing the imposter syndrome to fester. The intersection of Sigma personalities and imposter syndrome is indeed a complex psychological puzzle. But understanding this interplay is the first step towards overcoming the hurdles that it presents. By acknowledging the unique challenges that Sigma personalities face, we can begin to seek out strategies and solutions that are tailored to their specific needs. So, how can we combat this syndrome? Stay with us as we explore possible solutions. If you are resonating thus far, please hit the like button and hit subscribe. I appreciate it. Solution number 1. Recognize the syndrome. Awareness is the first step towards change. Understand that imposter syndrome is a common psychological pattern, affecting even the most successful individuals. It's not a reflection of your true capabilities, but a distorted perception of self-worth. Solution number 2. Self-affirmations. Counteract those negative thoughts with positive affirmations. Remind yourself of your accomplishments, your strengths, and your unique qualities. You're not an imposter, you're just human, and it's okay to make mistakes. Solution number 3. Seek support. Don't underestimate the power of a good support network. Talk about your feelings with trusted friends, mentors, or a professional counselor. You'll be surprised to find that many people experience similar feelings. Solution number 4. Set realistic expectations. Perfection is not attainable, and striving for it will only feed your imposter syndrome. Set realistic goals and celebrate small victories along the way. Solution number 5. Practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. Remember that everyone, even the most accomplished individuals, have moments of doubt. Solution number 6. Stop comparing. It's easy to feel like an imposter when you're constantly comparing yourself to others. Focus on your own journey and progress. Solution number 7. Embrace uncertainty. Uncertainty is a part of life, and it's okay not to know everything. Accept that you're learning and growing, and that's a process full of unknowns. Solution number 8. Own your success. Don't attribute your achievements to luck or external factors. You've worked hard for your successes, and it's important to acknowledge that. Solution number 9. Challenge negative thoughts. When imposter thoughts creep in, challenge them. Ask yourself if they're based on facts or just unfounded fears. And finally, solution number 10. Celebrate your achievements. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory against imposter syndrome. Celebrate these moments and use them as reminders of your capabilities. Implementing these solutions could significantly reduce your feelings of imposter syndrome. Let's revisit what we've learned today. We began our journey by delving into the depths of the lone wolf imposter syndrome, a psychological pattern where individuals doubt their accomplishments and have a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. This syndrome can be particularly potent in Sigma personalities, the introverted, self-reliant individuals who prefer to exist outside the traditional social hierarchy. We then turned our attention to Sigma personalities themselves, these unique individuals who march to the beat of their own drum. They are self-sufficient, highly independent, and often misunderstood. Their tendency to keep their achievements to themselves can sometimes create a breeding ground for imposter syndrome. As we dove deeper into the understanding of imposter syndrome, we unraveled how this pervasive feeling of self-doubt can hinder one's progress and hamper the achievement of personal goals. This is especially true for Sigma personalities who may struggle to recognize and celebrate their own success due to their introspective nature and tendency to downplay their accomplishments. The intersection of Sigma personalities and imposter syndrome was our next stop. We discovered how the characteristics that make Sigmas unique can also make them susceptible to this psychological phenomenon. Their self-reliance, introversion, and tendency to stay out of the limelight can sometimes feed into self-doubt and the feeling of being an imposter. But it's not all doom and gloom. We also explored 10 practical and effective solutions to overcome imposter syndrome. From acknowledging and discussing feelings of self-doubt, to practicing self-compassion, to reframing failure as a learning opportunity, we offered a roadmap to help Sigma personalities navigate their way out of the imposter syndrome maze. Remember, overcoming imposter syndrome is a journey, not a destination. But with these tools, you're well equipped for the journey ahead. Subscribe today.